So officially welcome, John.
Yeah, I do know.
Thanks for joining. So yeah, I think let's just go into the quote for today. Have a little look at that. Share my screen, and then that should lead us nicely into the lesson. Okay, so quote for today is over there. Nice simple one, but related to today's lesson. So do you want to read that and then read some of that text I wrote?
Yeah, when solving problems, dig at the roots instead of just hacking at the leaves. Anthony J. D'Angelo.
Which is seemingly, as I point out here, it's a radical approach to get. In fact, you read it. There's a few paragraphs here that I'm just reading.
Yeah, okay. Today's inspirational quote tells us that we need to get to the root cause of our problems rather than wasting time trying to solve our perceived problems on the surface level. It is indeed strange that such an approach to solving problems, which is the only one that will really work, is called radical in today's world. The English word is derived from the Latin word radix, meaning root. But in our society, someone who has so-called radical views is often considered unstable and dangerous. So, according to this obviously insane perception, it's unstable and dangerous to really get to the root of a problem and solve it. Only your ego could believe this, and in fact must believe this if it is to maintain its existence in your mind.
So it's interesting that people are dismissed as radical. Jesus would have been called a radical in his day because he's getting to the root of the problem, and he's saying, well, the root of the problem is in the mind, and so let's fix it there. And so that's the topsy-turvy, upside-down world of the ego.
Yeah.
So they call what actually works is called radical, and there's so-called conventional wisdom, which just hacks at the leaves of the problem. Take the medical industry as just an obvious example. Let's treat the symptom with drugs rather than getting to the cause and curing it at the root. And there's a whole industry based on that kind of thinking. So it's although it's insane, this is the way the ego works, and it's the way the world has been set up. Okay, so any thoughts on that, or should we?
No, it's interesting. Who is Angelo? What's his name?
Anthony D'Angelo. He is. I couldn't find very much about him, but he's written various books. But he was some kind of teacher. LGBT students in there. Okay, so lesbian, gay. Okay, so he must be gay, I would imagine. Inspiration for student leaders, inspiration for resident assistants, inspiration for Greeks, college blue book. Okay, so some kind of teacher at a college, I think, and that's the most I could find out. An author, but there's no website or profile. So yeah, so that's who is an author of various various books. In this sort of leadership, it's all. I just go and I Google search, and if I find a good quote that matches the theme of the lesson, then then I'll pick it. Okay, so where were we? Because
Because if you really see the root, if you really see that the root cause of all your problems is your ego, the belief in separation, that leads to a false sense of being a separate, limited, and victimized self. Then the only solution, which is to let go of this belief and identifying with the false self, is invented for you, becomes obvious. Oh, I like that paragraph. That's nice. To the point. Got it. All our the root cause is our belief in separation, which is actually the ego.
Yeah, that's all the ego is. It's not an entity. It's just a belief.
Yeah.
And that belief leads to a false sense of self. The belief in separation requires that you be a separate, limited, and victimized self in order for that belief to remain in your mind. If you see that that's the real cause of all of your problems in this world, then the solution's obvious. That's what Jesus is saying in today's lessons. See the problem, and then the solution becomes obvious.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah. But this threatens the existence of your ego and the seemingly external world it's invented to convince you that it is your real identity, so much that any problem-solving approach that reveals the real problem must be derided as radical, and therefore also denied as a real option.
So this is what it does. It'll say, "Oh, radical, therefore don't go for it." Or another, it's a similar idea to the conspiracy theory. Everything's a conspiracy theory, therefore, it's not true. You put a label on it, then you don't have to look at it. And this is the approach. Remember, the ego has to deny truth entirely in order to maintain its existence. So it's going to use whatever it can to convince you not to consider actually what is going to work as a real approach, and continue trying to find solutions in its thought system, which evidently doesn't work. But we we continue to try. Most of the world continues to try and solve the problems through the ego.
If you do deny the only solution that will ever work, all you are left with is a series of never-ending problems that you are forced to try to solve on the level of form without ever really solving any of them. Or as today's quote puts it so well, you'll spend your life hacking away at the leaves rather than digging for and uprooting the problem at its source in your mind. To say this way of living is futile and frustrating is a gross misstatement. It is, in fact, the cause of all suffering, sickness, and death, which are only effects of the denial of truth and the attempt to accept an illusory self and reality in its place.
So it's futile and frustrating, but it's the cause of all suffering, sickness, death, loss. Every negative condition in the world that you can see is caused by this belief. So it is the one problem of the world. Okay, carry on.
Say this way of living is futile and frustrating.
No, you've just read that, John.
Oh yeah, I did, didn't I? Yeah.
Yeah.
Fortunately, Fortunately, Joshua comes to the rescue again in this seemingly dire situation through today's workbook lesson, telling us first that we must recognize the only problem is our belief in separation, i.e. the ego, and then accept the answer of the Holy Spirit or remembrance of oneness to the problem, which is that the problem has already been solved because the problem never really existed to start with. Yep, that's well put. I mean, if the ego doesn't exist, then
how can there be a problem?
There'd be a problem because he couldn't have invented anything.
Yeah. So it gets it at the root. The root is you believe it exists. You believe in separation.
Yeah.
But if that belief is not true and doesn't really exist, then all of its effects don't exist either. They can be undone by this remembrance of oneness.
Mm.
And so this is the only problem-solving approach that's really going to work, because you're going to the very root of every problem, which is separation, and solving it, saying, well, separation doesn't exist. The idea behind this problem, it does not exist. It's not a real idea. How can I believe in what doesn't exist? And so then you clearing the mind of the foundation of the problem, which is this belief in separation.
Yeah. If you find this mind-bendingly difficult, remember that practice makes perfect, and your only purpose for being in this world is to practice this radical forgiveness process until you perfect it and find your true self in the process.
So that's all we're doing.
Yeah.
As we forgive, as we let go, we find our true identity reveals itself, and that tells us that there's only one self, right? The Christ, the one self, says there's only one of us here, so separation isn't true, and just see that in every situation.
Mm.
Okay, so I'm going to read the last couple paragraphs.
So our practice today's workbook lesson, the final one of this series, reviews, and along with the continue this radical process of freeing your mind from all its perceived problems. Okay. Warm you up for the lesson. Why not listen to this talk, David Hoffmeister?
Yeah, I'd recommend. Have you listened to it? It's about half an hour.
No, I haven't listened to this one. No.
Yeah, it's really worthwhile. He reads from lesson 79 in it, and then he comments on it. And he's saying, you only have one problem, and this is what you got to recognize. And this is echoed by pretty much every spiritual teacher. I was listening to Ram Dass yesterday in a talk that he did. And he quoted Gurdjieff, and Gurdjieff said, if you don't recognize you're in prison, you'll never escape from prison. It's the same way, it's just a different metaphor for it. You're in prison, unless you recognize that, then you're not going to free yourself, because you're going to believe that prison is freedom and that you're okay in prison. So it's the same idea. I have a perceptual problem. The prison is in my mind, and I need to correct that in order to be free. That's the start of the healing process. So this is all he's saying. You have to acknowledge you have a perceptual problem first in order to do this work. If you don't acknowledge that, then you go, I'm fine. Actually, I've kind of got it sorted. I understand myself and the world. Well, you're not going to be open to a teaching that says, well, actually, you don't understand anything. You have a fundamental perceptual problem. And so, in the recovery movement, this is also how it works. You have to accept first, okay, yes, I'm an alcoholic. That's why they start with that acknowledgement of the problem. And then that's the first step in the 12-step process that then unfolds. But if you deny that you have a problem, then there can be no healing. So although the problem's illusory, you must recognize the problem, that you think you have a problem first, in order to open yourself to the solution, which is really what A Course in Miracles is doing. It's saying, okay, so recognize the problem, bring it into awareness, bring it to pure formless awareness, the remembrance of that in your mind, bring the problem to the answer, and then the problem will be solved in every situation, because you bring true awareness into it, and then you must recognize that your problem has already been solved, which is what these two lessons today are about. Okay, so we move into the lesson then.
Yeah. Let me recognize the problem so it can be solved. Let me recognize my problems have been solved.
Okay, yeah, so skip over all that. So if you want to read the first original idea, and then go to the translation.
So let me recognize the problem so it can be solved. Let me realize today that the problem is always some form of grievance that I would cherish. Let me also understand that the solution is always a miracle with which I let the grievance be replaced. Today I would remember the simplicity of salvation by reinforcing the lesson that there is one problem and one solution. The problem is a grievance. The solution is a miracle. And I invite the solution to come to me through my forgiveness of the grievance and my welcome of the miracle that takes its place.
Okay.
Let me recognize the problem so it can be solved. Let me realize today that the problem is always some form of grievance that I would cherish. Let me also understand that the solution is always a correction with which I let the grievance be replaced. Today I will remember the simplicity of awakening by reinforcing the lesson that there is one problem and one solution. The problem is a grievance. The solution is a correction. And I invite the solution to come to me through my letting go of the experience and my welcome of the correction that takes its place.
No, letting go of the grievance. Okay, so any thoughts on that?
No, that's good.
Okay, you want to give a little summary? Let's unpack it a bit.
Yeah, okay. So what he's saying here is that any problem that we perceive or think we have is actually based on a grievance. And if we let go of that grievance, then we can solve the problem.
Correction of a grievance, which blocks our awareness of love or pure formless awareness from our awareness. A grievance creates a block, a limitation. Our awareness is no longer light and free and infinite. It's very contracted and dark. So that's the fundament. Because we believe in separation, we then believe that there are things that can cause us grief. Grief and grievance have the same root word. Can cause us grief in this world. We believe in those, and that's how we maintain our belief in separation, is through the grievances and the idle wishes. Expectations and grievances, as Jesus said, lesson 73, are partners or co-makers in making the world of illusion that we see. They are necessary to continue the ego's thought system, because without idle wishes and grievances, you would simply rest in your true being, and you say, I'm completely peaceful and safe and happy in this state, and I need nothing else. But as soon as I set up an expectation, or no, I'm not happy with things as they are, they should be some other way, then I set myself up for grievances straight away. And so that's the problem of separation. I've actually, through the idle wishes and grievances, separated myself from my source. And I keep doing that every time I have an expectation and a grievance. And that's how the ego works. Because it doesn't say, oh, well, just conceptually, here's an idea in separation. It's much more cunning than that. It gives you the idle wishes and the grievances to tempt you away from your pure formless awareness and try and convince you that the answer lies somewhere outside of you. Seek and do not find, which is the theme of today's text reading. So this leads us nicely into that. So I'll remember the simplicity of awakening by reinforcing the lesson that there's one problem and one solution. So really, really simple. Problem is a grievance, the solution is a correction or a miracle. So I need to let go of the grievance in order to invite the solution through this letting go process and welcome the correction that takes its place. It couldn't really be simpler, actually. he's laying it out. It's like but it's necessary to teach us in this way, because we do get tempted to hold grievances. It's what the ego does all the time. So we need to recognize that, yes, okay, I have a perceptual problem here. I'm perceiving a grievance and I'm making separation real, and this is in my mind. This is in my perception. It's not outside of me. The problem is not the person or circumstance that's seemingly causing me the grievance. The problem is I'm misperceiving it from the belief in separation. Okay? So happy with that one? John? Hello, John?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, happy with
Yep.
number one?
Yep. That's fine.
All right, so number two?
Okay.
It's the specific applications.
Oh, yeah, that might be. This presents a problem to me which I would have resolved. The miracle behind this grievance will resolve it for me. The answer to this problem is the miracle that it conceals.
Okay.
Yeah. Alternatively, this presents a problem to me which I would have resolved. The correction behind this grievance will resolve it for me. The answer to this problem is the correction that it conceals.
So there's different ways of framing it.
Yeah.
To give you a different take on it. So the answer to this problem is the correction that it conceals. And it's quite okay. So the problem is just concealing the correction.
Yeah.
The problem is tempting me not to let go and go to my true awareness and hold on to the grievance, an idea of separation in the process. So all of these are just pattern interrupts to interrupt the pattern of the ego in holding the grievance. Okay.
Yeah.
To move
No,
to
that's
the
fine.
next lesson.
Yep. Let me recognize my problems have been solved. When I read this morning, that gave me more of a problem than the first one, actually.
Okay, well, let's unpack it.
But it's kind of making sense now, really. I seem to have problems only because I am misusing time. I believe that the problem comes first and time must lapse before it can be worked out. I do not see the problem and the answer as simultaneous in their occurrence. That is because I do not yet realize that God has placed the answer together with the problem, so that they cannot be separated by time. The Holy Spirit will teach me this if I will let him, and I will understand it, it is impossible that I could have a problem which has not yet been solved already. That's a very positive statement, really. And,
yeah, very comforting.
And helps release the grip of the ego.
You want to read the alternative?
Yeah. I seem to have problems only because I am misusing time. I believe that the problem comes first and time must lapse before it can be worked out. I do not see the problem and the answer is simultaneous in their occurrence. That is because I do not yet realize that pure formless awareness of perfect love has placed the answer together with the problem so that they cannot be separated by time. The remembrance of perfect love will teach me this, if I will let it. And I will understand it is impossible that I could have a problem which has not been solved already. So,
I'll unpack that.
yeah. So we just mislead ourselves in thinking that, time is actually happening and that we have a problem and therefore there's a time lapse before we can solve it, before a solution can be found. But in actual fact, the solution is there right from the beginning.
Yeah, and this is how the ego perpetuates time. When we look at our timeline of consciousness, it's punctuated by problems. So we have these issues, problems that seem to arise, and then the ego wants to keep us dwelling on the problem, holding grievances particularly, because that keeps the timeline going. The solution seems to be somewhere in the future. Well, one day you'll find a solution. One day you'll find happiness. And of course, that keeps time going, because now you're on this timeline of past, future, with very little present. The present is not allowed to intrude into this idea. You're rooted in the past. Grievance is all about past, isn't it? It's a past orientation. And then any kind of solution the ego proposes is in the future. Well, one day I'll find an answer to this one, and it usually sets up something on the level of form that it tells you is attractive and that you want. Okay, well, one day, I'll meet the man or woman of my dreams. One day my ship will come in and I'll make enough money. One day, I'll be happy, but not today. So of course the one day never comes. It's always in the future, because the future doesn't exist. And so this is how problems and grievances keep you on the timeline, and they keep the cycle of birth and death going if you keep believing in them. And this, points us out of the dream, rising above the battleground into pure formless awareness in each situation. Then from that corrected place, you can now look again at the situation, come back into time, and the Holy Spirit changes your perspective of it. So that's why I put the blue arrows. So you got the red arrow, which is the ego's very limited perspective with no roots. You see, there's no source to that, is there? That's the interesting thing. It's just like a kind of thought coming from nowhere. Whereas the Holy Spirit has its roots in the truth, God, love, eternity, pure formless awareness. So that now reinterprets everything the ego is telling you about these life situations that you have, and it juxtaposes. So you see the blue and the red arrows kind of side by side, and this is why we vacillate between these thought systems, because it's like, okay, Spirit ego is going to tell us one thing, and the Holy Spirit's going to tell us another, and we can kind of jump between them and vacillate. But ultimately we must choose, because they contradict each other. So it's either going to be, either Jesus is telling us the truth completely, or he's a complete liar, and he's leading us down the garden path, and all of this is false. And we must make up our mind one way or another. Okay, do you want to give a little summary of that paragraph?
I thought I'd done that actually. Okay. So we seem to have we make up that we've got problems because we want to have this difference between, well, we're making up time, therefore we think we have a problem, it's going to take time to solve it, and we don't get that, or we need to get that, as soon as the problem occurs, there is an answer available.
Yeah, immediately, because there is no time. It doesn't require time for you to go to an eternal state of mind that's always there. So it's already been solved. This is what he's saying, which collapses time. If you really get that, then there's no need for time anymore, because the problem's already been solved. The problem was solved the moment that tiny mad idea of separation occurred to us. The problem was already solved, because the Holy Spirit's answer, the remembrance of oneness, was given in the moment of the separation. But we didn't accept it. We didn't believe it. We wanted to go on our own way and experiment with the idea. But it was given the moment the tiny mad idea arose. And so that's still the case. And so the moment any idea of separation arises in your mind, the answer is given. And we've just got to remember that, okay, my problem's already been solved, because the separation isn't true. So it's the correction. It's the denial of the false idea. Oh, there's Lucy. Great. We'll ask her to. So is that's clear?
Yeah, that's clear.
How are you, Lucy?
Hey, good to see you. Good, thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Just finishing off with this.
80.
Number 80. So why don't you read the alternative and then the specific applications for us.
I seem to have problems only because I am misusing time. I believe that the problem comes first, and time must lapse before it can be worked out. I do not see the problem and the answer as simultaneous in their coherence. That is because... Huh? Oh, sorry. Occurrence. I need to watch the classes. That is because I do not yet realize that pure formless awareness of perfect love has placed the answer together with the problem so that they cannot be separated by time. The remembrance of perfect love will teach me this if I let it. And I will understand it is impossible that I could have a problem which has not been solved already.
Any thoughts on that?
So the problem is time.
The problem is separation. But time is how the ego keeps the problem going. That's what he's saying.
Time is how the ego keeps the problem going.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you look at the timeline.
Yeah.
Timeline of consciousness. So we have an apparent problem. You just had a situation, didn't you? So that's something on your timeline. So now the ego is telling you to hold the grievance. So that's the red arrow. Ego, psychological and emotional attachment.
Mm-hmm.
And that roots you on the timeline and identifies you with a character in the dream, doesn't it? Very much so. It makes you very limited. You're an individual person who's now been hardly done by. You're a victim, and all of the thoughts and emotions that go with that.
Yeah.
And there's no roots to that. You see, there's no like source to that thought system. It's just like coming from nowhere. You see, there's no actual source to the ego's misperceptions, the ego's psychological and emotional attachments. Just like there's no source. And so this lesson is saying, well, the problem's already been solved. Just go into the state of God, love, eternity, pure formless awareness, knowledge, whatever you want to call it, the big blue awareness that lies above all of this, and it's already been solved because you recognize that there is no separation. So how can the effects of separation be real if only oneness is real? So the problem's already solved. That's the correction of the Holy Spirit, which then comes in and gives you a reinterpretation. So you remove your mind from the battleground, you go into pure formless awareness. That's the forgiveness, and then you come back and you look at this and you see the situation differently, and that's then the Holy Spirit's reinterpretation or correction or the miracle that awaits for you beyond the grievance. And it's juxtaposed, it's side by side with the ego. So you were saying, well, yes, I'm really struggling because I'm vacillating between these two. Well, that's what happens, isn't it? Because you've got two interpretations of the same situation, and they don't reconcile at all. You've got to choose between them, and you can find yourself bouncing from one to another because the ego is persistent, but the ego is wrong, and this is all Jesus is saying. I must recognize that the problem's already been solved, and it doesn't take time to solve it. I don't need to work this out on a timeline. I simply need to forgive it or let it go now, and then there's no need for time. Because time is always saying, well, yeah, I'll work my problems out in future. Well, one day, they're like The ego is going to tell you, oh well, when you find another person, another special relationship, then you'll be happy. Okay, so now you need time to solve the problem. Whereas actually the problem is already been solved if you just go into pure formless awareness and see it see the situation from that perspective. There's no problem. It's so simple, but the ego is not gonna take this easily. It's gonna try and get you to hold the grievance and keep seeking for the answer in the future. Rather than recognizing that, okay, it's a done deal. My problems have already been solved. You actually skipped the first bit. Let me maybe say that. Lucy?
Yeah.
Yeah? Are you with us?
I'm totally with you. I'm just writing down a few notes as you're saying it.
Okay. So say that.
Yeah.
You actually skipped that bit.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh
Which is
God, I
interesting.
skipped that bit.
Let me recognize my problems have been solved.
Okay. Let me recognize my problems have been solved.
How does that sit with you if you say it?
Yeah. Yeah, like I say, I vacillate. Like I get that, and then I kind of go bing. And I have a little crafty mind that wants to fix it, wants to find reasons for whatever, Like that's part of the forgiving process for sure. It's like, there are reasons out with anybody's control, it's a human design issue, or it's like perfect, that we act out certain things according to whatever. So it's like my mind is trying to fix it somehow. And to just
on the level of form.
On the level of form. It wants to go there. It wants to vacillate between that and that. It doesn't want to go into like the really awful stuff that would be tragic. But kind of, the mind wants to say, okay, it's okay because we figured that one out. And then it's like somehow there's space in me but it doesn't always work like that. I've just noticed that in difficult moments, there is a desire to fix or to forgive by having an answer,
On the level of form.
On the level of form. And I know that. I know that. But it does feel like a hell of a waste of time. Really feels like a waste of time being involved in all that mind stuff, But I'm not feeling the feelings. It's like, then what is it to deny the feelings that come up?
No, you acknowledge them initially. You say, okay, so that's whatever. Okay, it's a grievance. I'm feeling unfairly treated. I'm feeling resentful, anger, whatever, and you observe it, but you recognize that it's not true. That feeling is, you say honor your feelings. It doesn't mean you indulge it and go, oh, okay, well, I'll now just stay in my grievance forever. You observe it. You bring it up into conscious awareness. You look at it, and you go, oh, this isn't true. It's based on a misperception. Let me recognize my problems have already been solved. To collapse it. So Jesus is not asking us to dwell in the problem. He's asking us to bring the problem to the answer. Let me recognize my problems have been solved. If I can bring all of my problems to the one answer, which is pure formless awareness, that's still there, always has been there, then I must recognize that they've been solved, because in pure formless awareness of perfect love, none of these problems can exist. It's pure formless awareness. There's no separation.
Got it.
Yeah. And that's always the case. It's always available.
It's always the case.
Situation. Yeah. Because it's eternal. It hasn't gone away. It's always there, it's always been there, and it always will be there. Only your denial seems to make it go away. That's the whole issue. We've denied it and somehow separated ourselves from it in our mind, and now have to try and deal with our imagined problems on the timeline of the ego's tiny mad idea, which is now playing out in time. And there's no answer here. There's no answer on the timeline in the ego's mindset. It's just it's a series of unending problems that continue until you die. And then that's not enough for the ego, because it's going to just skip over pure formless awareness, because that's not what it wants, and it's going to come back and it's going to reincarnate. I don't know if you listened. Did you listen to David Hoffmeister's talk?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, it's worth listening to. He says reincarnation is the stubborn belief that I'm right. That's what reincarnation is. It's the refusal to accept the answer, and the stubborn belief that I'm right, that I've got this handled, that I understand what I'm doing, and I'll try and solve my problems through the ego, through the belief in separation. Well, then we come back. You carry on in another life to try and solve your problems, imagined problems, which are you're going to invent more of in another lifetime, and not recognize that there's one answer. Okay, the answer is oneness, and that ends all problems. So that was a nice one-liner. It says reincarnation is a stubborn belief that you're right, and that spirit is wrong, and that you will handle it on your own.
Yeah.
And of course, you're just going to come back and create more problems.
Yeah.
On another timeline, in another life, and the problem remains unsolved. The problem of separation remains. The reincarnation isn't going to help you. Eckhart Tolle, another great teacher, reincarnation isn't going to help you very much if in your next life you still don't know who you are. It's the same idea. You still don't know. You still don't know who you are, so you got to repeat the pattern until you finally understand who you are. And Jesus is saying the only way you're going to understand who you really are is through this process of letting go, or forgiveness. Because as you forgive your grievances, you then raise your mind into this higher awareness, into the awareness of who you really are, knowledge, and then you perceive from that point of view. And this is how you learn. Okay, well, this is who I am, rather than the ego's idea of separation, belief in separation. So it's very simple, but it requires the vigilance to say, okay, I must apply this without exception to every situation, and not get fooled into believing that the problem is somewhere else. The problem is on the timeline. The problem is out there. The problem is this person, the circumstance. Because if I don't recognize what the problem is, then I can't recognize what the answer is. It's that simple. There's two very powerful lessons, which if you applied, well, all of them are like that. But these two go hand in hand. If you just apply this to your life, you have to solve all your problems. Yeah. Like now, like not in the future. You solve the problem now because it's a shift in your mind that solves the problem. That's the correction. Okay. So any thoughts on that or questions? Does it make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. And yeah, something is going inside,
Resistance. Wow. Well, their ego's just been rumbled.
Oh my God, the ego's so been rumbled.
So then, this is what happens. But if you notice that reaction, that's good. It means something's happening.
Yeah, something's happening. Something always happens when I come to the Course in Miracles. It's always happens. Yeah. My ego gets rumbled.
Yeah. Because there's nowhere to hide. These lessons are so clear and so straightforward and so simple that you can't misinterpret them. He's being so absolutely clear. There's no room for ambiguity. And of course the ego doesn't like that. So it's resistance, reaction. But just observe that and go, okay, well that's all good. That's why I'm doing the work. is to undo this very problematic thought system, because that's what the ego is. It's just a very problematic. It lives on grievances and problems. Problems create the grievances. Grievances deny the truth of who you are. They keep you on the timeline, and that's all it's trying to do.
Yeah.
Okay. So you want to read the specific applications?
Looks like John's frozen.
No, I'm here. I'm here.
Frozen. You did a really good freeze then.
Yeah, just contemplative.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I thought you were asking Lucy, actually.
I did, yeah.
Sorry. I thought you said John. I'm sure you said John, didn't you? How weird.
Okay. No, I don't think I said John, but anyway. So
the specific applications of this idea might be in these forms. This presents a problem to me which I would have resolved. Oh, hang on. So you've rewritten, haven't you? I'm just reading from the book.
I'm not sure there actually is anything to translate. I must fix that, because there's nothing to translate there. So you can read either version.
Yeah, no, I've got in the old book, it says, this presents a problem to me which I would have resolved. And then the miracle behind this grievance will resolve it for me. And then
are you looking at the correct one? Yeah, you're looking at the previous lesson, 79.
79 I'm looking at.
Yeah, so we're on 80.
Oh, whoops. Sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
I need not wait. Oh dear. I need not wait for this to be resolved. The answer to this problem is already given me if I will accept it. Time cannot separate this problem from its solution.
Okay.
Yeah. So that last one, time cannot be separate. Time cannot separate this problem from its solution. I don't know what that means. Time cannot separate this problem from its solution. Oh, I see. So if you think you're giving it time to work the problem out or whatever, actually the solution is immediate. It's with you. Or okay.
Whereas the ego is always trying to say it's going to be sometime in the future.
Yeah.
So I can't solve the problem now, but somewhere in the future I'll find some resolution to this, and it sets up something on the level of form that requires time and often a lot of effort, and these are the major distractions. Everyone really caught up in the ego's thought system is trying to solve their problems on the level of form, on the timeline, and seeking and never actually finding the answer, because that's exactly what the ego wants you to do, is seek and never find the answer. The answer is right now in the letting go, but we're seeking for some other answer, and that keeps the timeline going and keeps us in the illusion of time and space and birth and death and the whole cycle that we're trying to escape. And the answer is right here, right now. Just recognize your problem's been solved. It just cuts through all of that and brings you completely into the present moment.
Yeah.
So yeah, really, it's a powerful lesson.
It's a really powerful lesson.
These two together go well. I must. The initial thing was I must recognize the problem so it can be solved. So this is the perceptual problem. We have one problem that we need to recognize in order to have it solved, and that problem is the problem of separation. Okay, I have a fundamental perceptual problem because I believe in separation. If I don't acknowledge that, I cannot allow the healing to happen. If I think my problem is something else, it's a situation in the world, someone's not treating me right, or I don't have enough money, or I'm fat, or I'm ugly, or I'm whatever, however I define it, I'm not really seeing what the problem is, you see. I'm seeing the problem somewhere else, and then I'm looking for a solution somewhere else in the world. So I must recognize where the problem is so it can be solved. And this is how all healing works. If you look at the recovery movement, the Alcoholics Anonymous process, they start with, yes, I'm an alcoholic. I recognize I have a problem and I need healing. Then I can follow the process of those 12 steps and heal. But if I don't recognize that I have a problem, then I'm in denial and it can't be solved because I just deny I have a problem. So this is the methodology. Although the problem is ultimately not real, we must recognize it, bring it into awareness in order to bring it to the solution. Okay, so there's one problem, separation. Well, the solution then becomes obvious. It's oneness. Oneness is the answer to the problem of separation. Okay, well, let me bring these together in whatever the situation is and recognize that the problem's already been solved because oneness is still there. And I can go into oneness in my mind. So very, very simple, but we need to have these lessons because we duck and dive and we don't want to recognize the problem so it can be solved. We want to see that the problem's out there, somewhere out there, so that it's not brought to the one solution. And that keeps us in the illusion of time, trying to solve our problems in time.
John, Jono, you've gone quiet, and I've noticed my camera's not working for some reason.
Okay. Can you
but you sort of went a bit quiet then when the plane went over.
Oh, okay. So that's probably because of a Zoom setting, I'd imagine. Something. I probably started to mute the noise because of the background.
Yeah.
Okay. So any comments, thoughts, questions on this lesson? Shall we go into a meditation on it?
Yeah, let's go into meditation.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So just making yourselves comfortable. Sitting, your feet shoulder width apart, back straight, cup your hands in your lap. Close your eyes. And start off by taking a nice deep breath in through the nose. So breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises and the subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. Clenching the sphincter muscle. It's the muscle used to contract the flow of urine or squeeze the last drops out, so that locks the energy in. Like you're drawing this energy up the spine into your heart center. Put one hand on your heart, connect with your heart space. Bring your mind into the present moment by focusing all of your attention on the breath and the sensations of the body. Breathe in again, draw the energy up the spine into the crown of your head, just pausing at the top of the inhale. Smile. And so just bring a problem to mind that you think you have, whatever problematic situation is presenting itself in your life. We all have them. Bring it to mind, notice the thoughts about it, notice the emotions you're feeling, notice any body sensations. Just breathe into all of that to create some space, some light. If you visualize well, you can imagine a golden or white light flowing into your body, into any areas where you notice any tension, any darkness. Maybe it's just a sense of lightness that you breathe in. Now remind yourself that you just need to recognize the problem in the situation, the real problem, so it can be solved. Say to yourself, let me realize today that the problem is always some form of grievance that I would cherish. Let me also understand that the solution is always a miracle with which I let the grievance be replaced, or correction with which I let the grievance be replaced. Today I'll remember the simplicity of salvation or awakening by reinforcing the lesson that there is one problem and one solution. The problem is a grievance. The solution is a miracle or correction in my perception. And I invite the solution to come to me through my forgiveness or letting go of the grievance and my welcome of the miracle correction that takes its place. So breathe in again. Top yourself up with air. Feel like you're breathing in this light presence of oneness, which solves all problems. So say to yourself, this presents a problem to me, which I would have resolved. And the miracle or correction behind this grievance will resolve it for me. The answer to this problem is the miracle correction that it conceals. And so, with that intention, exhale, have a sense of just releasing the problem, which is the grievance, it's the thoughts, it's the emotions. That's all a grievance is made up of, thoughts and emotion that are not true. Very contracted, limiting, doesn't make you feel good. So blow it all away like a dark cloud, black smoke leaving you to the nothingness that it really is. Clouds are not real, they're insubstantial. So you blow them away with the breeze of your breath and just surrender into the blue sky of your true awareness, your pure formless awareness. Nowhere else to go, nothing else to do, just accept the answer. So it leads us nicely into the next lesson for review. Let me recognize my problems have been solved. So breathe in on that. Deep inhale breath. Breathing into the stomach. Blowing it up like a balloon into your heart center. Clenching the sphincter muscle. To lock the energy in, feel like you're drawing this warm wave of energy up the spine, drawing it into your heart. Put one hand on your heart. Draw it up into your upper chest, into your head. Feel a warm tingling wave of energy rising up the spine, Kundalini energy rising up the spine into the crown of your head. Another sip of air at the top. Pause at the top of the inhale. Smile in this open, radiant awareness. And remind yourself that your problems have been solved. So let me recognize my problems have been solved. So I seem to have problems only because I'm misusing time. I believe that the problem comes first and time must lapse before it can be worked out. I do not see the problem and the answer as simultaneous in their occurrence. That's because I do not yet realize that God, or pure formless awareness of perfect love, has placed the answer together with the problem in my mind so that they cannot be separated by time. The Holy Spirit, or the remembrance of perfect love, will teach me this if I will let it. And I will understand it is impossible that I could have a problem which has not been solved already. Breathe in again, just top yourself up with this presence of love, this awareness of perfect love. It's light, it's clear, it's freeing, raises you above the battleground of your grievances into the light of your true awareness. Remind yourself, I need not wait for this problem to be resolved. The answer to this problem is already given to me if I will accept it. And time cannot separate this problem from its solution. And so as you exhale, just blow away any obstacles to your awareness that the problem's already been solved. idea that the problem's on the level of form, that it needs time to solve, to sort out, and let it all go, blowing it away like a dark cloud out of your awareness. The cloud has no power to obscure the pure formless awareness, which is what you really are, the blue sky of that awareness and the light of your source that shines through that awareness. So just surrendering into this awareness. There's nowhere else to go, and there's nothing else to do and nothing else to think about. Just surrender into the acceptance that all of your problems have been solved right now. There are no problems in perfect oneness. Perfect oneness is eternal. Perfect oneness must be in your mind right now. It's your reality, it's the truth. So just surrender into that knowledge, because it is knowledge. Knowledge of that which is beyond time and space and beyond problems and solutions. It is the one answer to all of your problems, the one answer to the ego's world of separation. And you can accept it right now, just in your awareness. Allow it to arise, go deeply into it, let the breath take you there, keep watching your breath, breathing in and out through your nostrils, observe the breath, keep your mind in the present moment. And if any thoughts come in to seemingly distract you, just return them to the breath. It's a way of gently laying them aside or letting them go and surrendering into this stillness of perfect oneness. Let it take you in, let it envelop you, let it encompass you completely, fully, wholly, for the next couple of minutes of deep silence. If any thoughts arise to seemingly disturb this deep peace, any problems, grievances, just observe them casually. Remind yourself that my problems have already been solved, so I need not wait for this problem to be resolved. The answer to this problem is already given me. If I will accept it, time cannot separate this problem from its solution. The answer is right now in my awareness, And just drop that thought. Let it go to the nothingness that it really is. Releasing it to the nothingness that it really is. And sinking back into the pure formless awareness of perfect love that is God right now in your awareness. Just surrender to that completely for another couple of minutes of deep contemplative silence. So just gently coming back, this deep state of pure formless awareness into awareness of the body and the breath, and the senses and the world. And on the count of 3, you're going to open your eyes. So 1, just breathing in, noticing how the stomach rises and the chest rises and the subtle flow of air in through the nostrils. And just pausing at the top of the inhale, smile. Scan your mind, notice any thoughts, emotions, notice any problems still in your mind. Breathe into them, imagine you breathing light, on a white light, spacious awareness, a light feeling. Remind yourself of today's 2 ideas. Let me recognize the problem so it can be solved. One problem is separation, belief in separation, and problem has already been solved because the answer of perfect oneness has been given. So let me recognize that my problems have been solved. I exhale and I blow the problems away like clouds. Just let them leave you to the nothingness that they really are. Then going, gone. All the lower stomach into the spine. Expel the last remaining air out. Count of 2, notice the weight of your body pressing down into the chair, your feet touching the ground. Notice what you're feeling and touching. Your hands, notice any smell in your nose, maybe there's a subtle taste in your mouth. And notice what you're hearing. So whatever the sounds are, the plane going overhead you can probably hear, just allow it to arise. Don't make a problem out of it. Don't create a grievance out of your sense perceptions. You just let it arise and fade away, pass away. It's the nature of all form. It's temporary. Anicca, as they say in Buddhist teachings, anicca. Temporary, impermanent. So why are you holding a grievance or desiring anything that's impermanent? You just release it, let it all go. Recognize the problem has already been solved and you are at peace. So anchor this state of peaceful, pure, formless awareness into your mind. And on the count of 3, open your eyes. Just take a minute to look around. Just looking at everything in the room from this state of awareness without any interpretation or judgment. Simply looking, perceiving the world from this awareness will keep you problem-free, grievance-free, and keep you in the miracle that you are. So stay there, just practice today's lesson. Given you some breath breaks to help you do that. Use the second one because we're in the second half of the day now. To practice it frequently, and join us again this evening at 7 p.m. UK time. It's 8 p.m. SA time. We'll do another meditation on this, and we'll go into the reading and discussion and translation of our text tonight, which is on seeking and finding. It's kind of related to this. Seeking and finding the answer, truly. So hope to see you then.
Thanks, Jono.
Thanks, Jono.
Okay, John. So are you going to be able to join later?
I'll have to see, actually. I've just got I'll have to see what I need to get these other things done first.
Okay. All right. Well, join if you can at 7 your time. We've got a power cut 2 hours later, so we can do it then. And Lucy, I think you said you couldn't join, eh?
Yeah, I don't think I can join. Do you say it's 7 or 7:30 it starts?
7, because I've got
7.
a power cut coming at 9. 9.
Okay.
So that gives us 2 hours.
I have a meeting at 8, which I need to prepare for. But if I feel I've got it sorted, I'll join in.
Yeah.
How many paragraphs have we got, John? Do you
know? It's 10, I think. It's a 10 paragraph job, so it's intermediate. So I think we can probably get it done in a couple of hours.
And where is it? Where's the bit that we're looking at tonight?
So we're on. Let's just bring it up. It's section 4 of chapter 12, which is
4.
Up for you here. Where are we? There we go. Section 4, chapter 12, called Seeking and Finding.
Okay.
And yeah, there you can see it on the screen. It's 7. It's a 7 paragraph job actually.
Oh, okay.
So that's not too bad. Yeah. So we should get it done in a couple of hours quite easily with the meditation.
Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Hope to see you later.
Okay. Cheers, Jono. Cheers, Lucy.
Nice evening.
Cheers, John. Cheers, Jono.
Okay. Thanks for joining. Namaste.